Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Mormon Atheist. So I got a great show tonight for you. So we're going. Oh, I just dropped my pen. So apostate congregation, welcome. Thank you for joining, subscribing, liking, and sharing all the videos. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. Also, as well, the new subscribers, welcome. Uh, Everybody is, I hope everybody's enjoying their reading and the research and finds these videos informative. Tonight, I got a crazy show for you. Okay, so tonight is what I want to do is I want to kind of prove my point of what I've been saying in, a lot of my videos about how this is, what we're being told is not real, right? It's not true. So when it comes to Mormonism, right? And so this whole channel is about, you know, going through history, reading old books, and taking those stories in these old books and comparing them to what we know about Mormonism today, right? And so by doing this, you can either prove or disprove a whole lot of stuff, right? So in today's episode, I want to discuss the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants. Okay. So this also, I want to show that there are so many different facets of research that you can do in this stuff, right? So I talk about William Morgan, Freemasonry, uh, the Church of Masonry, and the correlations, but there's literally everything, every Mormon story that you have ever heard in your life, okay, is reflected in these old books. And so you can go back in these old books and you can Google and research the stuff that they are saying, okay? You can compare notes, and that's what I'm doing on this channel. Is I'm comparing notes. I'm staying as close to Joseph Smith as I can, okay? I'm staying as close to him as I can while I read these books and while I do this stuff. And that way it gives me a better sight, okay, as to the time frame and what's going on in the world at that time, okay? So tonight is going to be a bombshell, okay? And then at the end of the video, I want to do an observation, right? So there's an observation that I want to make about Mormon bookstores, okay? All right, so tonight we are going to be talking about a book that's called Mormonism Portrayed. This book was written in 1841, folks, okay, apostates? The name of the author is William B. Harris. William B. Harris is the author, okay? Now, when you look up this author, the trickery starts right off the bat, okay? When you Google this author, this particular author, the only thing that's really said about him is he is one of the very first people to ever be excommunicated from the church, okay? Well, what exactly does that mean? Because I mean, you look all throughout time, like all throughout the inception, 1830, there were tons of people being excommunicated. So like, and not only that, everything I looked for on this guy is all church sources, all of it, everything. I couldn't find hardly anything on this guy that was outside church sources. And the little amount of stuff that I was able to find on him was not much. I'll just say that, not much. So, but I really want to focus on when you're Googling this stuff, the level of discredit. Okay, they're discrediting the hell out of this guy. Okay, a cultic move. All right, because this book is so explosive. It's literally every, like 90% of all the stories you've ever heard in Mormonism are in this book. And the crazy thing about this book is it's only 64 pages long. Okay. And it's not done. It's not finished. Well, it clearly was at one point in time finished, but what we have, it ends at page 64. And so, you know, some of these things that I have read are like that. And man, a lot of them, they'll just cut off in mid-sentence, like right before the juicy, you know, and then it just ends. And you're like, fuck, no. But that's just the way it is, folks. That's what we have to deal with. But it's good enough, though, because it gives you that insight, though. Okay. Once you read the book, okay, you will clearly understand why they are discrediting this guy. Okay. Now, the thing is when you read this stuff, I want you to read this stuff with, you know, you have to know the Mormon story, right? So go on the church websites, go on that stuff, and read what the Mormon story is, what they are saying is the Mormon story of whatever particular subject you're looking up, right? Because it's all there. All of these stories are the same. They never change. The only thing that changes are the names, the dates, and the intention. Okay? That's what changes. The intention is so important because one single word can change the entire meaning of a paragraph, right? And that's the kind of stuff they do, okay? And it's all throughout every single story you've ever heard of, every Mormon story you've ever heard, right? And my evidence is the books themselves and the church's very own website itself. I don't know how much more proof I need than that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you to go to the church's website. If I was full of shit, why would I tell you to do that in the first place? Okay. Read the story on the stupid website and compare it to what these books are saying. And literally every single one of these books all say the same thing. And then there's the church's story. So in a court of law, apostates, if I got 20 against 1, who's going to win? And if all 20 of those people are all saying the exact same thing, and then you have one that's a known shyster, a known scoundrel, a known swindler, a known this, a known that, who are you going to believe? I'll leave that up to you. You know, it's a free world. I just say use your reason. Who are you going to believe, apostate congregation? Okay. I'll just leave it at that. All right. So let's move on. So this book is in 1841. Let's be very clear. Joseph Smith is still alive in 1841. Okay. So we have Mormonism Unveiled, the first 1834 edition, right? Which I'll do a whole show on that because that book alone is an entire episode. There is so much, you know, this is a family program. So we'll say tomfoolery, shall we say, with that book in the 1877 version of that book. It's incredible. Okay. So that's important though. Joseph Smith is still alive when this guy is writing this book. Okay, that's a key component because it lends so much more credibility, right? Mormonism Unveiled and Mormonism Portrayed. Okay. So these old books, they're telling you what happened, right? The cult does what cults do is they tell you, they take old stories and they say, that's not how it really happened. Let's, you know, this is what happened. And then all of the constituents or whatever you want to call them, churchgoers, followers, they're like, oh, Claw, right? Claw. Okay, that's what happens here. That's what's happening here. Okay, so you you have to understand that this book is only 64 pages long, right? And it's cut down into chapters. And so I'm going to specifically talk about chapter one right now. Okay, chapter one, it's just in a 64-page book, chapter one. The important thing about this book is the differences, right? You've got to pay attention to these differences, right? And what the Mormon story is. It's just key words. You know, it may be one word, but if you don't catch that, you miss it. That's how clever this is. This is clever. Okay. Remember, an unlearned man did this. Okay. That couldn't read or write. And you see how clever this shit is? Okay. And you're gonna tell me that somebody that didn't know how to read or write, or that was just going around getting drunk all day, screwing women, like, I mean, this shit is clever, man. Okay, you've got to hand it to the guy. Whoever, I think it was Sidney Rigdon, but whoever did this, you have to hand it to them. They were very clever in the Book of Mormon, but we're going to expose some of that stuff tonight, and I think you will be mind blown because it's heavy stuff, man. Okay, so you see, one of the things that the church never expected was the internet congregation, because you can look up everything. You can look up all of this stuff. You can Google it. See, the thing about this book and William Harris is I'm not discovering anything new here. Okay, there's countless articles on the church's websites, and if you just Google the guy's book, the only thing that pops up is church propaganda. So this, which all in itself, you have to wonder, why does the church invest so much money and time in people that the church themselves have just completely discredited? Google William Morgan and look at all the LDS stuff that comes up on William Morgan. Why? What does William Morgan have to do with the LDS Church, and why would the LDS Church pay all this money and all this time and effort to put all this stuff on William Morgan? You have to question people, right? When something doesn't make sense and you can smell it, go with your gut, dude. Your gut is not gonna your gut will never lead you astray. Okay, follow your instincts. If something's not smelling right, sniff it out, find what it is, right? Okay, so you can Google everything. Okay, it's literally all there. You can Google everything. You can Google everything in all these books. You can Google every freaking sentence in these books. Okay, because history is telling us the truth, not the Mormon propaganda machine, right? The Mormon propaganda machine has been spinning these stories for 200 years, folks. And the Mormon atheist is here to expose these stories. But you see, that's the cool thing about YouTube. None of the stuff that I'm telling you is new information. It's all out there. You just have to have the mindset to find it, right? You got to be willing to compare these things, follow these names, compare these stories, right? I mean, the best ammunition you can have when you go to your family, okay, and they're giving you shit about being gay or smoking weed or whatever, okay? Your best ammunition is knowledge. And the only way that you have any sort of good combative story against your parents is if you actually read the fucking book. Do you understand me? You don't have a leg to fucking stand on. Okay? Look. Right here. This is my Book of Mormon, 1984. This is my Bible. The matching, these are Mormon issued. matching Doctrine and Covenants and Holy Bible. And I've read them several times. Do you want to know why, folks? I read these books so I could know what the fuck I was talking about. Do you understand? You don't know what you're talking about if you've never read these books, okay? Especially this one. Especially this one. These books, I specifically sought these books out. These are 1984 matching editions, right? If you've ever seen the movie 1984, which I highly recommend you watch, because that movie was a futuristic movie, okay? And the name of that movie is 1984, right? 1984 was the future, okay? So if you watch that movie and if you relate it into today's world, it's stunning. Okay, Pink Floyd, The Wall. It's the same fucking thing, man. You guys, we're being lied to. Do you understand? Reality is not what these people are telling us, right? And this Holy Bible. You got to put this book down. Everything in the wrong with the world is this book. Okay, read it and you'll know. You'll know. You don't know because you've never read the books. Okay. You have to read these to know what you're even talking about. All right, so let's move on. We're still talking about Mormonism Portrayed, okay? 1841 is when this book was released. So where was I? Because history tells us the truth. Pay attention to the letters, right? So in Mormonism Portrayed, there's a whole bunch of letters that he is citing, right? Okay, so you have to understand the times. This is the 1820s. You can't go to the bank and get a public notary, apostates. These letters are the notary, okay? They are the public notary. Think of them as vouchers, right? They're vouching. They're putting their word, because back in the day, your word actually meant something. If your word was no good, you were no good, right? So these people are putting their name down. That meaning, like the Mormon story dismisses that meaning, right? Yeah, that's very important, right? Because they're putting their reputation on the line, right? You have to understand that. They're putting their reputation on the line in these old letters, right? And so when you read these old letters, right, that are in the book, right? They're in the book, right? Those letters, you can take those letters and you can take them to the Mormon websites, and you can side-by-side comparison. Some of them are like 4 pages long, and in the Mormon websites, they're like 2 paragraphs, and that's it. Or you'll get like this big, long, drawn out, like blah, 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 faith this, Jesus that, Alma this, refer to Isaiah. And then, at the very bottom, you're so sick of freaking reading this nonsensical garbage, right? That it gets to the very bottom and it has 2 sentences. And you're like, I just read all of that. I feel so much dumber now because I just put myself through that nonsense, right? Excuse me. All right, apostates, like and subscribe to this channel, right? Okay, the links, note the links of these letters, right? These letters in all of these books, right? The amount of the letters, the signers of the letters, right? The signers of the letters, it's a notary, right? They're staking their reputation. I can't impress the importance of that in what these letters mean and what these people are saying in those letters of affidavits, right? They're vouching these stories, okay? All right, so pay attention to the names, right? So also there's things like in some of these letters, they'll change senior to junior. So the letter that we read in 1841, is 100% all about Joseph Smith Sr. And it's very apparent in the letter. Like you can't mistake it, right? It's there, right? But in the story that we know, you can read that same exact letter, and in that story that we know, it's it's been changed to Junior, or it's been changed to somebody else, or like, or a person has been added to the story, right? I'm going to do an episode here in a few days on another channel, and I'm actually going to take this book, and there's a particular letter in that book that I'm going to take, and I'm going to side by side compare that letter, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, right? And it's stunning. It is it. I'll give you a clue. There is no Sally Chase. There's no Sally Chase. Okay. Okay. Let's move on. So this is where we're gonna get hardcore right now. Okay. So in the book, right there, he's talking about the Reformed Egyptian and all this stuff. And if you go to, I believe it's what is it, Mormon, the uh, the Book of Mormon in Mormon. I believe I don't quote me offhand, but I believe Mormon in the Book of Mormon is where he says that this language is Reformed Egyptian. Okay, so it tells you, and also in Moroni in chapter 9, it also tells you about the Reformed Egyptian. Okay, so at the time, right, when they're doing the character page, right, this has a lot to do with the character page. He describes the character page, and he puts the letter from Charles Anton, okay, in there. And in that letter, Charles Anton says most likely the person that came to him was Joseph Smith himself, right? But the Mormon stories is Martin Harris did it, right? Okay, so then Charles Anton goes on and describes the character page. Okay, this is in Charles Anton's own words. Okay, let's see. I have the guy's name down here. What's his name? I wrote his name down. Coit, something Coit. I know I wrote his name down. Something Coit. I'll get back to you. I'll put it in the section. I swear I wrote his name down though. T.W. Coit. Oh, here it is. Reverend T.W. Coit. Okay. So it's Charles Anton's letter to Reverend T.W. Coit, right? He's saying that, it was Smith, and like this, it was just complete nonsense, right? And so he goes to he describes the character page, and it is nothing at all like anything that we have ever heard in the Mormon world today. The character page, if you Google that and you look it up, that thing is not what Charles Anton is describing. Okay, not at all. Like not even close. All right. So I don't know what the fuck that character page thing is, but in all these books, they all talk about it and they all describe it, and it is not what we know of, right? The Greek was hot at the time, right? And Charles Anton, the Rosetta Stone was being discovered, right? So Charles Anton was a scholar, right? And he was, you can Google Charles Anton and look him up, and like, there's no way, like this did not happen. Charles Anton, okay, the Mormon story that we know, right? And the Mormon story that all the historians are telling you, which they don't really ever tell you anything about Charles Anton, right? Nobody ever goes into detail about Charles Anton, right? But look the guy up. All they say is he was an occultist. That's it. That's all you will get out of the Mormon thing, is he was an occultist. And he verified the letter for Martin Harris. Well, in Charles Anton's own letter, he says it was Joseph Smith. Okay, so, all right, so my point is you see how they change these stories. These stories are being changed, right? And you know, it's stunning. You have to really pay attention, or you'll miss it, right? So now this is gonna blow your mind. If you've stayed with me, you're gonna go nuts over this. Okay. Okay. Apostate congregation. I hope you guys are ready for this because I'm about to get nuts right now. I had to get a drink of water just to prepare for this and wipe the sweat off my head. Okay, I got one more thing I got to grab here. All right, so we are going to talk about a couple of books that you are very, very familiar with. One of them is the Doctrine and Covenants. The other two are the Church of Christ Book of Mormon. Okay, this is the Church of Christ. Now, so all of you that don't know what the Church of Christ is, the Church of Christ is Joseph Smith's original church. And this is the original Book of Mormon. So they say. This is the Book of Commandments. Okay? This is, again, the Church of Christ, Joseph Smith's original church. This book is what you Brighamite Mormons call the Doctrine and Covenants. Okay? This is touted from the Church of Christ as the original Joseph Smith works. Okay? So let's talk about these books and let's do some comparison. Okay? Okay, so he says on page 162, okay, in the Book of Mormon, Joseph receives a revelation. Okay. Okay. So remember, the book I'm reading is only 64 pages long. He says in the Book of Mormon on page 162, Joseph receives a revelation. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Let's dig into that because this is where I'm telling you, in these old books, there is so many different areas of research, folks. Okay. On page 162 in the Book of Mormon. Well, let's bust out our handy dandy trusty Book of Mormon, folks, and let's look up page 162. And let's see if there's a revelation to Oliver Cowdery. Okay, this is the Book of Mormon. This is the 1984 version. Okay, we're going to do a little experiment here, apostate congregation. We are going to look up page 162 because in Mormonism Portrayed, it says in the Book of Mormon on page 162, he receives a revelation to Oliver Cowdery. And he goes on and describes, and he actually says the revelation. We'll get there. Let's look up page 162 first. Okay, here we go. Page 162. See the page number there? So I'm not lying. I'm not pulling no strings, no tricks. It's the Book of Mosiah. What? Okay. The Book of Mosiah on page 162. Well, maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Maybe I'm okay. Well, let's go to the Church of Christ because this is, however, in 1841. Joseph Smith is still alive, and on page 162 in the Book of Mormon. Okay, well, this is very much a Brighamite Book of Mormon. Okay, well, let's go to the Church of Christ and check out page 162. Okay, here we go. Page 162 in the Church of Christ Book of Mormon. Is that right? Page, yeah, right here. Page 162, Church of Christ Book of Mormon. Chapter 13, Second Nephi? What? Okay, hold on. Apostate congregation, what the hell just happened here? This guy is saying in the Book of Mormon on page 162, well, we just looked up two different Book of Mormons. There's no revelation, first of all. You can read, okay, here, look, I'll show, here. Mosiah, it's page 162. Mosiah 7:26, brother. Something's not right. What are we talking about? Page 162. Okay, well, maybe it's, okay, well, it is a commandment. So maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. Okay, I'm starting to sweat because it's not adding up. My shelf is breaking. Okay. Apostate congregation, I want you to turn to section 9 in your Doctrine and Covenants. Section 9, Doctrine and Covenants. What's that page number, apostates? Sure the hell ain't 162. That right there is the revelation that he is telling you that's on page 162 in the Book of Mormon. Well, okay, what the hell? Again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, let's go to the Church of Christ, Book of Commandments. Oh shit! You know what? This book is only 125 pages long. Damn, apostates! We have a problem. Houston, Church of Christ, Book of Commandments. 125 pages long. There is only 65 commandments, I believe, in this. The last one was written in 1831. This is Joseph Smith's, it's touted as Joseph Smith's original Book of Commandments. But what's going on here, though? Why is none of this stuff adding up, apostate congregation? Oh, maybe it's the Book of Commandments. Okay, well, let's look it up. Guess what? Guess what, apostates? Here it is. It's on page 15. Okay. There it is. There's the sentence right there. Let's see. Over here. Yeah, there's the sentence right there. It starts right here, and then it goes over to here, and it ends. And that's it. From here to here, apostates. Wow, that's strange. Because in section 9, well, I guess it's still longer. Okay, section 9, you got all of this, right? And then it goes over to here. So it's a lot longer than this, right? Here, let me hold them up side by side so you can get the actual visual, right? So it not only is it longer, apostates, but it's not numbered the same. I don't know if you can see that or not, but they're not numbered the same. This one, the Book of Commandments, is section 8. The Brighamites is section 9. And this one is longer than this one. But neither one of them are on page 162. So what do we got going on here, right? What Book of Mormon is this guy talking about? Okay, well, here's the thing, apostate congregation. He's not the only author that does this. There is literally every single book you read, every one of them recites these page numbers, and you can look them all up. Every one of them, you can look them up. None of them are where they're supposed to be. None of them are worded the same. None of them are. They're totally. The underlying thing is the same, but they're so different. Wait until I get to the one on celestial marriage. That'll fucking blow your mind. Okay. In this book, to go to the whole polygamy thing, dude, you have no idea. History tells you the story. Okay. So I thought that was pretty fascinating that page 162 in the Church of Christ is Second Nephi, and page 162 in the Doctrine, the Book of Mormon, is Mosiah. I thought that was interesting as hell. Okay. So I'll leave that up to you, apostates. You can do with that information what you will. But that's not the only case. That is not the only case. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. Hundreds. Just in this 62-page book alone, or 64, but he talks about that's okay. This will fuck you up. Listen to this. Okay. Let's go back to Mosiah, congregation. Page 162. I thought this was great. 162. Okay. So on page 162, chapter 8, read this, the little synopsis. Okay, I'll read it to you. Ammon teaches the people of Limhi. He learns of the 24 Jaredite plates, ancient records, can be translated through seers. The gift of seership exceeds all others. Does that just ring Solomonic magic to you? That's the fucking devil, brother, right there. That is the devil. Okay? Solomonic magic in the Book of Mormon. You can't deny this stuff. Once you read this book, apostate congregation, I'm telling you, man, you will see it. You will see it. You can't not see it. Okay? That's you can't not see it. I'm not a scholar. I never even got into this magic stuff. Mormonism is what even got me into magic. You understand? So I really want to emphasize that this is not what you think it is. Okay? We all are lied to. We've all been lied to. This is not what you think this is. Okay? So what am I supposed to believe, apostate congregation? Let's look at this through the lens of a faithful Mormon. Okay, I was born and raised in the cult. Right? I went to church in the 80s, the late 80s, all through, the late 70s, all through the 80s, that was kind of my time. Very early 90s, that's when I kind of started getting away from things. And so if you look through the lens of a faithful Mormon, like how would you take that? What would you say? What would you say if what I just did right there, what would they say? What kind of a defense would they have, right? How can you defend that? That's your own books, people. That's not the only instance either, right? Okay, he goes on to he talks about page 91, page 178, and he's reciting these things that we very much know. In 1841, we know what that revelation was that he cited on. So that particular revelation was the revelation where Oliver Cowdery loses his ability to translate. Okay, now think about that for a second. The Solomonic aspects of that, right? And then when you flip to the actual page 162, it's about how the seers have the powers. There's a story being told here, apostate congregation. I cannot put my finger on it, but there's something here. And I don't know what it is, but I can smell it. I can taste it. And I need your help in sniffing this stuff out. There's a reason this is happening, okay? And I don't know what it is. I can't place it. I can't figure it out, but none of this stuff matches. None of it adds up. The names, the dates, everything, okay? But once you read these old books, it puts stuff into perspective, and it starts giving you this idea, right, of what's happening. And then this author tells you about that author. That author tells you about that author. This author cites page numbers out of this book. Look that stuff up. Google it. That's how you do it. That's how you do this research. Is you know, look it up when they say a name that you've never heard before. Look up that name and see where that name leads to, right? Maybe a college that you've never heard of. Look up that name and look up. You got to remember, this is the early 1800s, so this is the starting of all of this stuff. So when you're looking this stuff up, you're literally looking at the founders of these colleges and why they are creating these colleges, right? You can follow these trails, and it all has to do with politics in some sort. And 90% of these people are all Mormons. All of them. All of them. Something is going on here. Mormonism is more prevalent in the world than I think any of us realize. Truly, I truly think that it has. I mean, if you watch my last episode, Apostates, I was talking about Captain Samuel Smith. Do you know who Captain Samuel Smith is? Have you ever heard the story Pocahontas? John Smith? That's who Captain Samuel Smith is. John Smith is Samuel Smith's son, and he has brothers named David and Joseph. Do you understand? A signer of the Constitution of the United States. Apostate, something is going on here. That sounds incredibly crazy, but if you do the research on Captain Sam Smith and Samuel Smith in the Joseph Smith family tree, they are the exact same person on paper, but in real life, they are very different people. So why do they match exactly the same? Their stories, their relatives, their sons, their daughter, everything, their wives' names, it's literally the same, the exact same. All of it is the exact same. Is that coincidence? Or is there something here? Is there something going on? I don't know what I've stumbled on. I have no idea, but I've stumbled on something. And I very much stumbled on this. This is nothing that I like, you know, and all of this came through just reading these books. Do you understand that, apostate congregation? This is why I want, because I don't know, nobody on this freaking planet thinks the way that I'm thinking right now, that I know of, right? So, I mean, there's something here. There's something here. I just proved this freaking book. Like, I don't know. I could go on like this for days and days and days about this same exact subject. I can show you book after book that talk about pages that are in the Book of Mormon. But then when you look those up, it's not there. But we know exactly what he's talking about. Am I the only one that finds that strange? apostate congregation? Is it just me? Okay, so this is fabricated propaganda. Okay, who are the Mormon founders? Did the Mormon founders kill William Morgan? Uh, these videos, okay, who is the real Joseph Smith? Okay, these videos, I go into great detail about this character named Joseph Smith, right? I mean, this is Masonic, folks. This is Masonic. It has to do with politics. It has to do with the Church of Masonry. Okay, but let's be very clear here. Okay, I am not interested in the sign, signals, and handshake. I don't, you can go to you can go elsewhere for that kind of information. There's a lot of it out there. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the correlation, right? Why is Samuel Smith, a signer of the United States Constitution, involved in Mormonism? Before Mormonism was even a thing, before there was ever any Joseph Smith, before there was any of this stuff. Captain Samuel Smith, apostate congregation. What does he have to do with Mormonism? Why? And think about that. That's freaking John Smith, Pocahontas, man. That's who that guy is. Something is not right, apostate congregation. You know, the stuff that I'm talking about in this book right now is only chapter 1. It's only chapter 1 in a 64-page book. Okay? It's 60. Read it on the toilet. You understand? It's an easy read. It's easy. You can go on archive.org. You can look up Mormonism Portrayed, Mormonism Portrayed, okay, by William B. Harris, 1841. And you can read the book yourself. It has audio, so you can listen to it on your headphones. That's what I do. Apostates, one thing I want you to understand though. When you go to archive.org, okay, these are the original copies of these books. Okay. So you have to understand something, that these are the early 1800s. These books are being printed. Okay. It was a feat to print these books. Okay. So think of a typewriter. Okay. Think of a typewriter. Okay. That the letter is backwards, right? That letter, the I or the W or the O or the P or whatever, is backwards. Okay. It's a little like cube, and you drop it in a plate. So if you don't have an S, you use a $sign. If you don't have a C, you use an E. Do you understand? That's how these books are written. That's how they're printed. That's not how they're written. That's how they're printed. Okay. So you have to be cognitive of that, because if you listen to these on that audio, it will say like letter $sign or something, and you're like, what the fuck? But if you go back and you read it, it will have, you know what we call like hashtags, the star symbol, it'll have these things, the $sign mixed in with it, because they're filling that way, because they know that the I, you can have fucked up letters, but as long as it's the same concentric idea, your brain registers as the same way, right? So it doesn't matter if it's an E, you're still going to pronounce it as a C, okay? And also, I want you to understand that these books are written in the 1800s, apostate congregation. This is pre-Civil War stuff. Do you understand that? Okay. So in some of these books, the N-word is very prevalent. Women are talked about in a derogatory way. Okay. It's life. This is history, people. Okay. If you don't like it, F off. It's history. Okay. You have to know where you were to know where you're going. And if you forget that stuff, you're destined to repeat it. So it's so important that you never forget what history is. Okay. All right, apostate congregation. I hope that I've kind of proved a little bit here about the differences of, I hope I've intrigued you. I hope all of my videos are intriguing to you. I try to, if you don't have to go smoke a cigarette when you're done watching my video, I have not done my job. Okay. Apostate congregation, there are many, many, many more videos to come like this. Okay. You can literally disseminate every single Mormon story you could possibly think of, right? You can compare the Church of Christ, you know, you can compare the Church of Christ Book of Mormon to the Brighamite Book of Mormon. And obviously, as I just showed you, they're different. Okay. So what are we supposed to believe? What do we believe? You know what I'm saying? Use your reason, apostates. The muse, find your muse. Find your muse. That will lead you where you need to be. Find your muse. Okay. The muse will not take you astray. That gut feeling that you have, that's the muse. She's talking to you, she's speaking to you. And when she speaks, listen, because if you don't listen, usually there's some sort of consequence on the other side. You understand? The Renaissance is here, apostates. Okay. We will continue to go through this. We're going to go through, I could do a million videos just on the Bible itself, right? On Enoch, right? So my last video, we were talking about Enoch. And as I was doing research for this video, I was reading through the book of Moses because there's actually, so I'm about to end right now, but I want to do one more thing before I end. So in the book that I'm talking about, Mormonism Portrayed, he's telling you about a revelation. Okay. I forget offhand which one it is. This totally just now came to me, so I was thinking this. So he's talking about a revelation, okay? And that revelation, to me and you, we very much know that as being part of the Adam God doctrine, okay? The Adam God doctrine. Where is the Adam God doctrine at? Okay. Now he keeps remembering that, he keeps saying page numbers in page whatever of the Book of Mormon, in page whatever. So he says in page whatever, and then he cites this revelation that's in the Book of Mormon. It's not in this Book of Mormon. I don't know what Book of Mormon this guy's talking about, or any of these authors are talking about, because whatever Book of Mormon they are talking about, it is nothing that any of us have ever seen or ever heard of. Because all of these authors, every video that I've ever done, I recite authors. And I tell you, William Dixon in 1866 is in Utah. And he's talking to Brigham Young. And nobody can produce a Book of Mormon. There is no Book of Mormon. In 1866, everybody knows about it, everybody's heard about it, but nobody can produce one. There's no physical Book of Mormon in 1866. And in 1889, H.H. Bancroft says the same thing. Okay, so what Book of Mormon in 1841 is this guy talking about? Does that make sense? Am I coming through? Am I coming through to you? Does that make sense? Is what I'm saying. I know I have a problem with I know I have a problem with relaying these messages, but I think I'm being pretty clear right now. Anyway, so the Adam God doctrine. So he says it's on page whatever. So you go to page whatever, you look them up, and it's not there. And you're like, what the hell? So I'm looking. So I know it's the Adam God doctrine. Where's the? It's in the Book of Moses. Okay, in the JST Book of Moses. Okay. So you read this, and you're like, holy shit. Well, this still ain't page whatever. You know. Okay, so I actually wrote it down. Here, hold on. I wrote it down. So he page 65 in the Book of Mormon is what he said. I wrote this down. Let me find it. Let me find it. Give me 1 second. Let me find it. Here it is, right here. So in the book, in Harris's book, he says on page 65 in the Book of Mormon. Okay. So I looked it up. That is Moses 653. Moses 653. Okay, let's go to Moses. Let's go to Moses 653. That's what he's talking about right here. Okay, so, but this is very different than what he's reading, though. Okay, but there's similarities, though. So this is what he says. This is what he's talking about. Is that the right one? That's 39. Damn it, I'm in the wrong place. No, that's the right one. Okay, and our father Adam spake unto the Lord and said, why is it that men must repent and be baptized? And our father in the water, okay? And he goes on and he talks and he says, and behold, I have forgiven thee thy transgressions in the Garden of Eden. That sentence right there, okay, that's verse 53, okay? That sentence in his book is the beginning sentence. So what's all this other stuff in here, right? Do you see? You see how these things are changed, apostates? Okay. So it's just crazy, right? So when I was looking, I was like, okay, well maybe it's me. How many pages are in the Book of Moses? Are there 65 pages in the Book of Moses? I counted them. There's 28. Well, maybe it's the Book of Moses and the Book of Abraham combined. Well, I counted those. There's 8 pages in the Book of Abraham. Add those up, 28 plus 8, you get 36. That's still not 65 pages. Do you understand? Do you see these discrepancies? But hey, never fear, because this is the Word of God, folks. This is canonized. What a joke, right? So I say to you again, your best weapon is knowledge. You are never going to be able to go to your family or your bishop or anything and make a cohesive argument unless you read this book. Know what you're talking about. Okay? It's a fascinating book. There is so much good stuff in this book. Like it's a page turner. So when one thing that I personally want to say about the Book of Mormon is when people are telling you like, oh, it's boring. It's it's like any book, right? It's boring, but this book has fascination behind it, right? This book was created by Solomonic magic, Freemasonry, the government. I don't know how the government, I don't know how the government correlates into this, but think about it, apostates. How has this organization not been shut down? Since its inception, it has been an incredible thorn in the side to the United States government. How have they survived? How did they survive the treason? How did they survive the how did this church survive? This isn't luck, okay? This isn't random acts of like right place, right time type shit. There's something more here. And I just don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but how has this church, the Church of Masonry, if you correlate all this stuff together, it kind of starts to make sense. You're like, oh, I get it. There's no way this church will ever go away. Because it's directly tied to our government. Our government is a Masonic institution. Right? Is that just me? I don't know. I don't know. This is something that I think about. I truly think about this stuff. Like, how has this church survived? I mean, how does the government not want to know? Do you remember the Enron too big to fail phase in like 2008? Enron was too big to fail. And so they broke it up on purpose. The government did, because it had so many if that company was to go down, it had its fingers in so many pies that it would take the United States economy down with it. Okay. Look at the church. Look at the church. They're a theocracy, right? This is not a secret. They're a theocracy. It's against the United States Constitution to have a theocracy in the United States. And they are a theocracy. And that is known. It's not a secret. That is known. The government knows that. How are they still there, right? The $260 billion or whatever that was that they just got fined for. How is this church still there, right? The extermination order against Governor Boggs. How is this church still alive? They ran them off. How is this church still alive? I don't understand. This is not just perseverance. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is not, there's more to this story. And William Morgan was exposing this secret. And our job, apostate congregation, is to figure out what that secret is. Why does Captain Samuel Smith, why is he implicated in the Mormon story? Without Aziel, you cannot have the Joseph Smith story, and I can't find Joseph or Aziel anywhere in history. But one place I very much can find Aziel is in the book of Enoch. I can find him in Solomonic magic, in the angels. I can find him in John Dee and Edward Kelly, Enochian magic. I can find Aziel there. That's where I find Aziel. I cannot find him anywhere other than those places. Without Aziel, there is no Mormon story, right? So, you know, you have to wonder, why Captain Samuel Smith? Why all these lesser known signers of the United States Constitution and the Declaration of Independence? Why did these lesser known signers become Masonic lodge leaders? This is the Scottish Rite. You understand? This is the Scottish rites. Okay. The signers of the Constitution were Scots and Yorks, but the Scots went off, and they are the ones that are responsible for what the entire thing that I am talking about, right? It's all done by the Scottish Rite Masons, the entire Church of Mormonism, right? Or I'm sorry, Church of Masonry. You see, it's, I don't know. So, all right. Anyways, I'm going to end on that, guys. So I said I would have an observation. I would have an observation at the end of the video. Here's my observation. A friend of mine, somebody that I've never physically actually met before, but we talk online and, you know, stuff like that, text messages, phone calls, FaceTime, stuff like that. This person has friended me, okay? So I started giving him information, all right? Okay, through this time, so this is a couple of years I've been dealing with this guy, okay? I'm giving him information. He's been telling me, have you ever thought about reading this book? Have you ever thought about reading that book? And I keep telling to him, no, those are modern books. I don't read modern books. I read books of the day, because all of your modern books are writing about those books. So they're the middleman. The modern author is the middleman as far as I'm concerned, and they're injecting their opinion. I don't want to hear that shit. I want to go straight to the source. What does the source say? So I bypass these people completely. When I'm not interested. I am not interested in Richard Bushnell or whatever the hell that guy's name is. I don't want to read it because it distorts my brain, right? Because now I'm reading about his opinion of these books. I don't want to know his opinion. I want my own opinion. Okay, you understand? Go to the source. So he keeps giving me these books, and I keep telling him, I don't read Mormon source books, right? So then the story changes to, well, they're not Mormon source books. They're people that, you know, don't have it, they're criticizing Mormonism. So about a week ago, I was recommended another book, and it sounded interesting. I was like, huh, and it actually kind of piqued my curiosity. So I Googled, being the person I am, I Googled these authors before I read the books, right? So I Googled the author. Where the hell is this book sold at? Apostate congregation. Cults work in very strange ways, okay? I stopped talking to this guy because I felt like he was trying to friend me, to dissuade me. That's how I felt. That's what I felt like that's through our entire friendship. That's how I felt about this guy, right? But then once I looked up that book, and I was like, well, shit. And I still got all the texts and everything. So I started looking up the other books that he's been telling me about. And every one of those books are sold at Deseret Book. Every one of them. Do you understand what a cult is, apostates? You have to be aware. These people will friend you for years and be your fucking friend to your face. And the entire time they're trying to dissuade you. What kind of a friend is that? Right? So I stopped talking to this guy. I was like, no, man, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So I want you guys to be very observant and very, very like aware that these people are out there, right? These people are out there, right? The Mormon podcast that just got shut down, or they didn't get shut down. They got shut down. The two of them, they're not even more mentioning their names because they're such shysters. Those two people hoodwinked everybody. Those two people should be ashamed of themselves. They lied to all of you, to all of us, right? These people are not ex-Mormons, and they're producing ex-Mormon content. Do you understand? But it's a way to try to keep you in the cult, because they never they never do what I do. They never take out the Book of Mormon and show you passage and compare notes. None of them do this stuff. None of them. That's what's unique about my channel is I talk about Fraser Magazine. How many times have you ever heard about Fraser Magazine in your life, but nobody, there's not a book written on it, there's nothing of what is actually in that magazine, what that magazine actually says. Nobody. I've done 3 or 4 videos on what that magazine really says. And that magazine is not the only magazine that says that. There's a lot of books and magazines and pamphlets that say that Eliza Snow, Orson Pratt, Orson Hyde, they cannot describe Joseph Smith. They can't describe him. They all repeat the story. You understand? They all repeat the story. In Fraser Magazine and in William Dixon's book, they actually say they could not describe the particulars of their own prophet. I had to look that up in context of what that meant, right? They can't describe the prophet. He's a drunkard. Okay, what does he like to drink? Nobody can say. He's a wrestler. Okay, well, what was his favorite move? Nobody can say. You understand? They can tell you the story, but they can't tell you the details, the particulars. This is why I wonder if this guy is even real. Yes, there was a person, but the name Joseph Smith, that person is, because I've showed you articles where he died in 1834. The articles, newspaper archived articles. Also where he died in 42. Also where he died in 44. Apostates, do you understand what is happening here? Something is not right. Something is up with this. In 1834, Joseph Smith dies. It says it. You can Google it. You can look it up. You can go to my community chats. I got the freaking screenshot of the article on there. And you can go to that archive on that website that's on that screenshot, and you can look up that picture and you can see it for yourself. He died in 34. Mormonism Unveiled comes out in 34. The church takes on some pretty significant changes in 34. That article says, Joseph Smith, the Mormon prophet, dead, and then it says why he died. Okay, that's in 34. 42. Joseph Smith, the imposter, because they all know that it's not Joseph Smith. That guy is not Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith died in 34. So this guy in 42 is an imposter. He's not Joseph Smith. He dies. The church takes on significant changes. Once again, more books come out. Is this coincidence? 44, he dies again. This time they call him the imposter prophet, because they all know that is not Joseph Smith. They all know that is not Joseph Smith. So I leave it up to you, congregation. Who is Joseph Smith? Who is he? Is he William Morgan? I don't know. I don't know. But I really want to find out. And their stories are so incredibly similar. They are the exact same person, other than their names and their dates. That's it. Other than that, they're married to Lucinda Pendleton. Their court dates are the exact court dates. Their fines are the same exact fines. All of their troubles are the same troubles. William Morgan was a drunkard. Joseph Smith was a drunkard. The similarities are striking. Lucinda Pendleton, one of the commenters, I won't out you, but one of the commenters asked a comment the other day that said that they were that they are particularly following the Lucinda Pendleton trail. So I replied to her and said, well, there's two Lucinda Pendleton stories. The end of the story, okay? So one of them is the Mormon story, which says Lucinda Pendleton goes off with George Washington Harris, George Harris, and they moved to, I think it's like Kentucky or Tennessee or something like that, and they live out their days never to be heard of again. The other story is a guy named Reverend G.W. Smith. G.W. Smith and Lucinda Pendleton go to Oregon. Now, the commonality here is both of these stories very much are talking about William Morgan's wife, Lucinda Pendleton, and Joseph Smith's wife, Lucinda Pendleton. They're the same person, right? You know what? Just on a side note, I implore all of you to look up Lucinda Pendleton and look at her picture. And I just want to say, for the 1800s, that woman is freaking smoking. Man, she's hot. No wonder. All right. No wonder, man. Lucinda Pendleton is a looker, let me tell you. All right. Anyways, folks, I could go on. We're at 1 hour and 17 minutes. I'm 17 minutes longer than what I wanted to go, but all right. So we're gonna end. Apostate congregation. Am I getting my point across? Okay. Are you starting to see what I'm seeing? Are you starting to read these books? If you are reading these books, comment and let me know what you're reading. I'm interested. I'm curious. I'm learning just like you. I don't know. This is complete random stuff for me, right? This is random. The muse is taking me. I've never heard of this book. Never in my life have I ever heard of this book. Nor have I ever had any kind of an interest in these kinds of books. But for some reason, the muse is taking me to these. And I don't understand why, and I can't figure it out, but I know there's something here, and I know that I know I'm onto something. Let me know what you're reading. I'm learning too, because maybe I've never heard of whatever it is that you're reading, and maybe, I don't know. Share your information. I'm sharing my information with you. So, I'm learning too. I want to know also. I'm just like you. I'm no different. The only difference is I'm the one saying this stuff out loud. None of these other there is literally no other podcast out there that is talking about this stuff in this kind of a fashion. There's millions of podcasts on Freemasonry and the correlations of Mormonism and the handshakes and that's not my interest. Okay, you can go elsewhere and find that. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, so okay, guys. I actually still have more in this thing, but I'm done talking. I'm tired of talking. So I actually have more of my presentation that I never even got to. So okay, apostate congregation, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This channel is not monetized, nor will it ever be monetized, because we got stung. And what happens when you accept money? You are beholden to the person that gave you that money. This channel is not monetized, and it will never be monetized. So the only way that you can support the Mormon atheist is by telling your friends about this stuff. Google everything I talk about. I want you to fact check me. I am asking you to fact check me. Okay? Because the reason why is not only are you going to find what I'm talking about, but you're going to find other stuff. You're going to find stuff that you are particularly interested in. Maybe the Doctrine and Covenants isn't your interest. Maybe the Joseph Smith Army is your interest. Maybe the Utah becoming a statehood is your interest. Maybe the Mountain Meadow Massacre is your interest. Maybe it's all in these books. It's all in these books. And the stories are very different than what we are told today. Okay, that's my point. And yeah, that's my point. And so you can see the evolution of the Mormon story as the years progress. But the church today will vehemently deny any of this stuff. The Mormons came from the Pacific Ocean, Pacific Islands. I can't tell you how many books were. Brigham Young himself says that, but it's denied. No way. No, they probably meant, they could have meant, maybe they were talking about these kinds of words, hypotheticals. No, this is what the guy said right here. This is what he said. Here's 5 other books that also say it. You understand? Okay, I'm having a good time tonight. I'm actually having a good time telling you this story. So I'm fascinated by this. These go so deep. Check it out. I really, you cannot talk about Mormonism without the Church of Christ. You have to involve the church. That is Joseph's original church. You have to involve the Church of Christ in everything that you are thinking about. It's got to be in the back of your brain. You got to program this shit in your brain, man. Okay. Thank you, Apostate Congregation. Like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you on the next go around. Tell your friends. Watch the videos all the way through. These are the only way to support. That way this information gets out there and more people see it, because not monetizing your channel really limits the algorithms. So they want you to monetize the channel so they can control you. Okay. Money is greed, man. Money is greed. Greed. Lady Babylon says it all the time. Greed will stain your soul with the stench of ruin. And that is very true. So, all right, apostates, see you on the next go around. And we will see you on the other side.